And second, here go one. Commissioner Scott. Yes, sir.
If you're going to handle the executive session prior to going into it, I mean, if you're going to handle the agenda item.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, if you're going to, if you intend.
Turn your microphone on, and the chair will take over at this time, but you are recognized to speak.
It's a motion to approve the state maintenance contract with CGL in the amount of $310,140.30 for July through December 2022 for the Charles Webster Detention Center.
So moved.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from third.
I was going to make a motion, but I seconded it. Somebody made a motion before me. I think it was Commissioner Hassan. Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Commissioner Johnson made the motion.
Okay, and I seconded it.
Thank you. Voting.
I guess it's okay. Mr. Franham, we're voting on item number 3, if you wanted to vote for that. That motion carries 8-0 with Mr. Mason and Mr. Bobby Williams not present.
Chair recognizes Attorney Brown.
Good morning, Mayor Davis and Commissioners. We'll request a motion to go into executive session for the discussion of pending or potential litigation, real estate, and personnel.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Mr. Garrett, you voted? That motion carries 8-0 with Mr. Mason and Mr. Bobby Williams out.
We'll reconvene and call this meeting back to order. Chair recognizes Attorney Brown.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We'll request a motion to execute the closed meeting affidavit.
So moved.
Voting.
That motion carries 8-0 with Mr. Dennis Williams and Mr. Mason out.
Okay, we're going to have the attorney read a series of resolutions. Chair recognizes Attorney Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. Our first motion, however, would be a motion to approve the Bush Fair Airport Director hiring of Bruce Keller for the position of Airport Airside Maintenance Supervisor at an annual salary of $70,000 with a start date of July 23rd, 2022.
Question from the third.
Second.
All right, voting.
Shoot.
That motion carries 8-0 with Mr. Dennis Williams and Mr. Mason out.
Thank you. Our next motion.
Thank you. We request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims for Malik Williamson in the aggregate amount of $250,000 payable as follows to Malik.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
That motion carries 7-2 with Ms. McKnight and Mr. Clark voting no and Mr. Mason out.
Our next motion.
Thank you. Request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims by Lorraine Jones in the aggregate amount of $94,000.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
That motion carries 8-1 with Mr. Clark voting no and Mr. Mason out.
Our next motion.
We request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims with Veronica Lusk in the amount of $32,000 as written.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Dennis Williams. Sorry about
That motion carries 8-1 with Mr. Clark voting no, Mr. Mason out.
Our next motion.
We request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing settlement of all claims with Michelle, by Michelle Lyman in the aggregate amount of $12,500 as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
That motion carries 9-0 with Mr. Mason out.
Our next motion.
Will request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims by Michelle Lyman as parent and legal guardian for Cody Lyman in the aggregate amount of $7,000 as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
That motion carries 9-0 with Mr. Mason out.
Our next motion.
There will be a motion, we request a motion to approve, to adopt the resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims by Michelle Lyman as parent and legal guardian for Howie Lyman in the aggregate amount of $5,500 as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Mason out.
Our next motion.
We request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims by Veronica Lust as parent and guardian for Caden Lust in the amount of $2,500 as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Mr. Williams? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Mason out.
Wait. Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Thank you. We request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing settlement of all claims by Michael Lehman in the aggregate amount of $7,500 as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Mr. Garrett? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Mason out.
Attorney Brown, I believe that might be one left.
Yes.
All right, please.
We request a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the settlement of all claims by Tiffany Jones in the aggregate amount of $37,000 as written.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Voting.
That motion carries 8-1 with Mr. Clark voting no and Mr. Mason out.
Yes. Attorney Brown,
I believe there are no further motions.
thank you. I concur.
All right. It is 1 o'clock on the dot. I'd like to call public services to order. Ms. Moralski, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. Colleagues, if there's no questions, I would like to consent agenda items 9, 10, and 11. 9, 10, and 11.
So moved.
Commissioner Clark, can you second? Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, I know you're wanting to consent 9. I had a question about number 9, and I did not get an opportunity to call Ms. Daughtery to talk about it in
Okay.
advance, though I would have.
Take it off.
Would you please?
Yes, sir. So we got a motion and a second to consent agenda items 10 and 11. Voting, please. Got Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Clark. If you can pull your mic towards you as well.
That motion carries 3-0. Mr. Mason out.
All right, let's go top down. Ms. Walton and the. We'll start with agenda item number 1, please.
Item 1 is an existing location, new ownership. A request by Adam Sang Kim for retail packaged liquor, beer, and wine license to be used in connection with 365 Liquor Store located at 2852 Deansbridge Road, Suite D, District 2, Super District 9.
Okay, Ms. Walton.
Are any of my alcohol applicants in the chamber?
There's a couple of them. If you're an alcohol applicant, you will be coming forward and state your name and address for the record. Ms. Walton gets there.
All of the applicants were contacted. I don't see Mr. Kim in the chamber.
Okay.
And
Is Mr. Fuentes in the chamber? Okay, we can go to agenda item number 2 then. Number 1 will go to full commission.
it's a request by Ramiro Fuentes for an on-premise consumption liquor, beer, and wine license to be used in connection with El Atron located at 3112 Washington Road, Suite A. There will be dance. This application has been approved by the Sheriff's Office and Planning and Development. Do we have any objections to this alcohol petition?
None noted. Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ramiro Galpin Fuentes, and I live in 3545 Evangeline Drive, Augusta, Georgia.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
That motion carries 3-0. Mr. Mason out.
Agenda item number 3, please. Ms. Donaldson's in the chamber.
It's a new location, alcohol number 22-56. It's a request by Amy Donaldson for an incidental alcohol license, consumption on premise, beer and wine, and retail package beer and wine to be used in connection with Augusta Candle Company located at 1124 Broad Street. This application has been approved by the Sheriff's Office and Planning and Development. Do we have any objectors to this alcohol petition?
None noted. Ms. Donaldson, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Amy Donaldson, address is 736 Jones Creek, Evans, Georgia.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
That motion carries 3-0 with Mr. Mason out.
Is Mr. Tajil in the chamber? And Ms. Leslie Watkins. Is Ms. Watkins in the chamber?
Okay, so agenda item number 4 and agenda item number 5 will be moved to the full commission.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to agenda item number 6. Before we do these presentations, just need to make sure that we do stick to the issues, as well as we will not do any kind of personal attacks on any department heads or anyone in the 5 minutes that you are given. So if we can do agenda item number 6, please.
Yes, sir. Item 6 is a presentation by Mr. Kevin DeLagle regarding the lack of maintenance by the Parks and Recreation Department of the medians on Green Street, Riverwalk, and historic cemeteries.
Okay. Mr. DeLagle, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Kevin DeLagle. I'm at 636 11th Street in downtown Augusta.
Okay. You have 5 minutes, sir. Once the presentation's up, you have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon, commissioners and everyone present, and also those people who are watching on the live stream who I've been getting a lot of calls this morning. So I'm here to talk about the lack of maintenance on the Green Street median. I live on 11th Street. I walk my dog on Green Street every day. I have a new business on Green Street, and the conditions are just appalling, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. First of all, on the Augusta, Georgia official website, it says that the mission of the maintenance division is the maintenance of all right-of-ways on county roadways. So I'm not sure if it's the maintenance division, Parks and Rec, or whoever, but the buck has to stop somewhere because it's a shambles. First of all, you've got the Gold Star Veterans Monument, which is broken and overgrown. The Tubman Monument is overcome with vines and weeds. You have weeds taller than I am, saplings, just outside this chamber on Green Street. The National Guard Monument, the lighting is broken, there's trash and weeds. I went there this morning. This is a sapling as tall as I am, just outside the door here. You've got the George Washington Monument, the father of our country monument that's just, it's pitiful. When they had the Signers Monument celebration on July the 4th, they had to cut the weeds and move all of this debris just so they could set up their speakers. This is the Tubman Monument. Some of you may not know who Emily Tubman was, but she was an incredible person who advanced education and the churches and also the cause for civil rights in this community in the 19th century. She went all the way to Washington to make sure that her slaves were freed and that they could be sent to Liberia or be freed. And this is her monument now. I mean, is this what we think of these people? People of all races, colors, creeds, people who've laid down their lives for our country. This was the monument when it was dedicated in 1994. Look how far we've fallen. Magnolia Cemetery, one of the most amazing historic cemeteries in the country. These pictures, I mean, it's not, we've had rain the last 2 or 3 days, but we've had a drought for over a month, and look at it. The picture on my right is right behind my father's grave. This is historic Cedar Grove Cemetery, the traditionally African-American cemetery. It also is a shambles. I mean, the down signs, weeds grown up everywhere. It's pathetic. Riverwalk, we've talked about forever, and we still have, the sidewalks are torn up, there's poor drainage, out of date, water fountains that don't work. I mean, we're gonna need a lot more money than what was allocated recently for this. I mean, this is supposed to be our front doorstep. That picture on the left is right behind St. Paul's Church, and that has been that way for years. So what do we do? Where is this Keep Augusta Beautiful group that was founded? Where are these people now? I don't know. Also, what do we do to get our Garden City back? I mean, if Augusta Richmond County won't do it, then we're going to have to come up with some kind of public-private partnerships. You have the canal, heritage area, you have organizations like churches, local businesses, you have local groups, like I saw these guys down there today taking care of their family plot. I mean, if the city won't do it, we're going to have to come up with some kind of partnerships that will. Thank you for your time. I really hope this leads to some kind of better maintenance and that we can get our Garden City back.
Thank you, Mr. DeLagle. We appreciate that. So a couple things. Totally agree that we got to do better as a city, but that's just not on our department heads. It's on this body as well, and giving clear direction on whether it's Parks and Rec, engineering, you name it. We've got to give more clear direction on our end as well. So we have to take ownership as well. I will tell you that some of these changes are already starting to happen, though most of these changes do happen in a budget cycle where we fund these different areas in a way that they can get the job done, because obviously some of it is funding. I will tell you that some of the issues we have in downtown Augusta is because of we've got Parks and Rec handling some, we've got engineering handling some, and it does create issues between departments that we haven't clearly defined who needs to handle what and what funds need to go where. From a Keep Augusta Beautiful standpoint, we did recently disband or are disbanding that organization from the standpoint of those funds will go back into engineering to help beautify the city more. And recently this commission just discussed that we will come up with more of a clear roadmap for not only Parks and Rec, but all department heads, because we all have different issues. We all have different things that people reach out to us, and pet projects that maybe you could call it, that we can't get done. But as a body, we've got to do a better job of giving clear direction. And myself and my 9-10 colleagues up here are committed to do that. So over the next few weeks, as well as during the budget cycle that'll happen in August, you will hear that because we've got to do a better job to make this city what it's about and what it should be about to keep it more beautiful. Colleagues, does anyone have any follow-up that they would like to follow up on that? Okay. Again, thank you for coming out. I understand that you are being heard. I appreciate the pictures as well, to see some of those that are very concerning. So can I get a motion to receive this as information? Yes, sir. Commissioner Hassan. Okay. Could you forward that to the clerk's office so we can see these pictures? She has it? Okay. So Ms. Morowski, can you make sure that the commission has emailed that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. I got a motion, and I think Commissioner Clark seconded. Voting, please.
That motion carries 3-0. Mr. Mason out.
Okay. Agenda item number 7, please.
Item 7 is a presentation by Ms. Mary Lorenzi regarding the resolution of an issue with the Inspections Department due to the general contractor's failure to perform on the completion of her residential renovation.
Is Ms. Lorenzi in the building? Okay. Come forward, please. And if could someone from Planning and Zoning be prepared to speak as well on this issue once Ms. Lorenzi is done. Ms. Lorenzi, welcome to the chambers. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Mary Lorenzi. My current address is 208 Parkland Drive, Lake Placid, Florida.
Okay. You have 5 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the board for giving me time to come here and help get hopefully some resolve on an issue in District 1, Richmond County, on a residential renovation. Hired in 2021, our general contractor was asked to perform the duties in the immediate need of the project, which was our first building inspection, second roofing inspection. It was made clear that no work could happen until those were complete. I received a call from our contractor saying to get going and start work. We were not aware, unfortunately, that he had not called in the building inspection or the roofing inspection. Therefore, projects went up, the walls, the drywall went up over areas where the building would have needed to be inspected. Throughout the project, I took pictures of each process. All of our contractors pulled permits. What we were not aware of was that the inspection was not taking place. And the inspector's office does not talk to the homeowner, they talk to the general contractor. As I began to get calls from our contract workers that the general had not met any of them at the permitting office or followed through on our processes, I came to Augusta, physically met with our contractor, and we went to the office together to get an inspection. At that time, we had the inspection set up. This is when the problems began, because the inspector came out and was upset that we had not had the initial building inspection. We were then told we would need to remove all the drywall in the entire home to look at the 2x4s. This is a hipped roof. All load-bearing walls are the 4 exterior. So the interior is not even an issue. And it's grandfathered in. Nothing was changed on the footprint. All work and permits were pulled from all of our contractors. And I submitted digital pictures at the time the inspector told us to remove all the work that had been done as far as the interior drywall. He did not want to see those and just wrote us up to tear everything out. At this point, after the pandemic and holding work for over a year, labor shortages, supply chains now, and material costs that have risen over 100 to 200% at this time, I am asking that I be allowed to call in. We welcome final inspections, and we would like to move forward to finish our project. We estimate we have 4 weeks more, literally, to finish out and list our beautiful property. I ask the board for resolving our issues with the inspectors department. We called them, and we got a little bit of a reaction like we got caught doing something. So we welcome the inspections. We have all our permits in order and have hired 100% licensed bonded contract workers. At this time, I ask for your help to resolve and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just say, you might not want to go for it. Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for that.
Sure.
So you said that along the process, the general contractor was not calling for the inspections?
Correct.
So
in immediate, yeah, the first thing he was hired for,
was
it
this
never
was
happened.
this his first project that he'd done?
No, and when I met with the inspector's office, he made a comment to me that he had heard of this gentleman before, and that unfortunately none of his projects were up to snuff. So he had already heard of this gentleman. So I would say, I'm not sure why he still has his general contractor's license. That's unclear to me. But more importantly, we'd like to move forward and not throw anybody under the bus.
Well, I understand that, and I just know that, you know, as construction projects proceed, there are steps along the way.
Absolutely.
And so I guess we're going to hear from
Yep.
The department in regards to that. But I just want to make sure that I did hear you correctly, that your general contractor had not called for the inspections each step of
Correct.
the way. Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark, do you have a question for?
Well,
Go.
not for the speaker, but I do have a question. Would it be advisable to seek advice from our attorney
Well, let's
on what we can do to proceed with
let's
this?
hear from the director next, and then we'll see. You're right, we might, or who's going to speak on this? Director Delaney or?
Hello.
Hello.
Of course, I have Marshall Masters, our chief building official, and he has firsthand knowledge of the situation, so I'll let him speak.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. I've been to the site myself. I did a secondary inspection after our staff did, and the sheetrock, the drywall is up. We simply can't see the work that was done. When this happens, this is typically that you take the drywall off all the exterior walls and half of the interior walls and the ceiling. So you get to save a certain portion of it. Again, we can't do the inspection if we can't see the work. There's liability for the city. I don't really have a way to go on this. Her only option, any property owner's option right here would be a third party. If they want to get an engineer out there that can trust the pictures and do some spot checks and all, that's the only way. But I'm not comfortable inspecting work that I can't see. I can't ask my guys to do it because I won't do it. And I did leave a voicemail on her phone yesterday because we were uncertain which project this was, and I left my voicemail my cell phone yesterday so we could communicate. I never got a call, but it's the drywall looks good. I mean, but I can't see behind it, and so I don't want to say the builder's name, but I will say this: the work the work is better, I kind of question whether that builder is actually doing this work or not. I don't know. The job is very well done from what we can see so far. So I think, and she stated that her crews were moving. So I don't know who actually is doing the work. I know who's got the permit, but I don't know who's actually doing the work. And we've had this trouble with this builder before, not calling the inspections in. He's licensed, he's bonded, he's insured. His license is regulated by the state, not the city.
All right, Commissioner Hassan, then we'll go back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to have a question for Mr. Masters, if you don't mind. Mr. Masters, from the presentation that you just made and what you realized, what are your recommendations, and how common is this?
It can be common. I mean, we have a portal that the customer and the contractor can check the status of their inspections, so they don't have to actually rely on the inspector in the field, the permit card. There is a portal to check on. If you're not aware of it, you can't check on it, but it's on our website, and it does happen from time to time, and this is our typical response. Most likely any inspection department's response is, we've got to be able to see the work that was done. And and when you do this, you're uncovering, it's an older home, but the sheetrock came off at some point. So you're doing a condition assessment, what was behind the wall, not necessarily that we just put the drywall up, but what is the condition behind the wall? You just may be refreshing the home, getting up to new condition, but what did that wiring look like behind the wall? What did that plumbing look like? Was there insulation in the wall? There's a lot of things that come into play other than we just put drywall on it, for the occupant, future occupant.
So my question becomes, obviously, in the perfect world is to take all the drywall down, right? So is it also an option to do a spot check on it, just to try to see what you think would be major places? If you pull it from here, pull it from here, pull it from these spots, or you think it's just best to pull it all out?
I'm comfortable pulling it out.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm more comfortable pulling it out from just a safety perspective. You don't know what's behind where and where the problem is until you see it. When we do the inspection, we really don't do a spot check on it. You're either ready or you're not, and we want to do the whole dwelling at one time with the electrical, plumbing, mechanical installed, because each trade has an opportunity to mess up the previous trade's work. So it's really an inclusive inspection that we see it all.
Okay. Well, also, Mr. Chairman, if you don't feel there's appropriate to answer this question, I can live with this. Also, I'm hearing you saying two things too. You see what's being done in terms of the drywall. You think a great job is done, but also you're questioning the general contractor whether they actually done this work or not. Should this be of concern to us?
Again, I have to go by who pulled the permit, who the permit holder, and what the work was done. I don't know who actually did the work. Was it his labor force, or was it the property owner's workforce? I don't know. But I know that the drywall looks exceptionally well, and it is difficult to tear it out. But I think that's the only avenue now, is to tear it out, because there's going to be a future owner here involved. And there are safety issues here. I don't really have a way to go on it.
Thank you, sir. And I think that also satisfies your concern too, right? If you can get everything down, you can look at it. At that point, you can live with everything that's there.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So, Mr. Masters, just a follow-up. So you're saying if the commission, basically we would be setting a precedent not to have that wall come down, in a sense. Is that correct? Sheetrock, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what all right, committee, where do y'all want to go with this? I mean, I don't think we really have many options. I mean, Director Lane, do you have a recommendation that you'd like to tell the commission?
We would like to extend the opportunity for the property owner to have a third-party inspection via a structural engineer to certify what has been put in place, or they need to take the sheetrock down so we can do a proper inspection.
Okay. Hold on just a second.
To include the electrical, sorry.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so in this instance, can I get a motion to receive his information?
So moved.
What? In front of the mic, please.
On the electrical, which we've spoken about a couple of times, our rough-in electrical was passed last year and is not under question, has already passed rough-in inspection, and we do not have power in the building. They have not turned power back on. It's been since last year, and that rough-in electrical has passed.
Thank you. Okay.
I could follow up on that. Again, I don't have access to the system. We only knew the address today.
Okay.
We reached
Well,
out
if-
yesterday, didn't hear back, so that rough electric could very well be approved in the system.
Okay.
I would not have known that walking into the meeting today.
Okay, if you can just make sure and check that out and have that discussion, we greatly appreciate it. Commissioner Clark, can I get a second on receiving some information?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Voting, please.
That motion carries 3-0. Mr. Mason out.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Lorenzen, for coming in. And he'll have some more conversations with you. Mhm. Absolutely. Agenda item number 8, please.
Item 8 is a presentation by Mr. Richard E. Jones to discuss the problem with the outdoor pools from experience.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Jones. If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Jones, and I live at 2316 Tudor Drive.
Okay, you do have 5 minutes, sir.
As a former pool manager for 2 summers, the problems that I've seen being addressed about lifeguards and whether or not the facilities, the outdoor pools in particular. I worked at Dyes Park for 2 years, Jones Pool, and the pool on Lumpkin Road. What's that, Fleming, I think it is. And as far as the lifeguards, majority of the lifeguards came from Columbia County, okay? And I asked the kids, how do I know that? Because I asked them what high school they went to. And if they didn't want to be there, they quit within the first week of the hot summer. I've experienced that for 2 years, 2 summers. As far as the pools, during this hot summertime that we have, I'm surprised that the algae has not built up overnight. Normally, the water evaporates, the pool loses suction to the pumps, and the chlorine systems, when I was doing it, was changed from granular to a chlorine pod filters. At Dyes Park, it did not work correctly because at the time we only had one pump, and we had to throttle the discharge valve in order to get suction on the pump to circulate the water. But overnight, the water evaporates, drops the level, the algae will build up in this heat when we have over 100 degrees heat indexes, causing the problems with the pools. The ratio of lifeguards to swimmers was 1 lifeguard per 25 swimmers. If you have a lifeguard call and don't want to come in, you couldn't operate, but only 25 people could come in to swim. Luckily, I had a good pool cage high school guy at the time who straightened out the entire supply room at Dyes Park. And I did speak to this body before, and I recommended that Dyes Park be changed to a splash pad. And to me, if you're going to have somebody at splash pad, they need to be certified first aid. In order, if they have accidents where a child fall, break their arm, get abrasions, cuts, or anything like that, they need to be certified in first aid in order to administer them until paramedics can get there. And those are my recommendations for the splash pads. The one on Highland Avenue that you already have, and if you do go forward, one on Dyes Park. Again, The lifeguards, majority of them came from Columbia County. To get more lifeguards, I suggest you try to get some folks from Fort Gordon maybe, because you're competing with corporations in the area for higher pay and they're working inside. Example, Amazon, over 1,200 employees now. And they're paying good with benefits if they get to qualify full-time. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Well, we do appreciate you coming out. This issue, interestingly enough, many of my colleagues and I were down at GMA, and the lifeguard issue is not just an Augusta issue, it's a state issue. And one of the things that some of the other municipalities have done is contracted out through lifeguarding companies. And from our standpoint, from me anyway, like $15 an hour is not a bad pay for a lifeguard. Amazon's paying $14, $15, but the problem is you got to go find where those lifeguards are, and that's why when these companies that have it have the lifeguards already on contract, they could move them from one pool to another and work the day shift at one of our pools and the night shift out at another pool. So we'll look at some of that moving forward too, to possibly do in the future from a contracting standpoint, I'm sure.
And one other thing about the Fleming pool, the manager, I don't know if they're still doing it, they had a snack bar or candy store there. The time consuming to inventory candy was astronomical, to where you spend more time doing that than trying to get out and make sure everything with the pool is running correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that at Eisenhower, I think they kind of contract that out with someone that comes in. I don't think we do it when they have T-ball and baseball and stuff. But no, duly noted. Is there any colleagues want to follow up or any questions for Mr. Jones?
Move to receive his information, please.
Okay. Got a motion and a second to receive his information. Voting, please. Again, thank you, Mr. Jones, for coming out.
Just one other small comment. The guys that used to work the pools, before I got there, time-wise, why they closed at the time that they do close, because the managers have to get the money up to Damascus Road by 6 o'clock every evening, because we had the pool managers and lifeguards. We had to put up equipment, clean the pool if you can, if they got good skimmers, again, and then add water if we needed to add water before we left. But I had to get the money up to the Damascus Road by 6 o'clock each evening.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate your institutional knowledge, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
All right.
That motion carries 3-0 with Mr. Mason out.
Okay. Agenda item, last one, number 9, please.
Item 9 is a motion to approve a contract with Bridgestone America's Tire Operations, LLC, for the leasing of transit bus tires.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a single question for Ms. Daughtery.
Okay.
I'm intrigued by the idea of leasing transit bus tires, and I wanted an explanation as to the rationale for leasing versus purchasing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. The reason transit leases versus purchase, because it saves the city money in leasing the tires, and it's a better fit for our organization. When you're leasing the tires, you get services that you wouldn't get if you bought the tires, because you would have to do all of the servicing for the tires yourself. So that would be the department taking care of that. When we lease the tires, we have the company that we're asking, Bridgestone Firestone. They come in, they deliver the tires, they set up everything for us. And recently, one of the items that we added to these tires was the tire pressure monitor system. So now, like last week, we had a flat tire. With this tire pressure monitoring system we've added to this leasing contract, they will now tell us, it's a sensor that will go off and tell us if a tire is getting flat before it even gets flat. And so when that bus comes in, we can take care of it. So we felt like leasing the tires, and this is something that Transit has done way before Ms. Daughtery came along. They've been doing it ever since I've been with the city for 19 years. But this is something that saves the city money versus going out buying tires, because it's like, I mean, you're gonna spend probably close to $700-800 a tire, and you're talking about a bus that has 6 tires.
Mike, your microphone.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. So, Ms. Dowdy, you just indicated the city's been leasing tires for 19 years or better. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, very well. I yield the floor back.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to approve. Voting, please. Commissioner Clark.
That motion carries 3-0. Mr. Mason out.
Okay, that concludes public services. Thank you, committee.
I think public safety is next. I call public safety to order. Ms. Clerk, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, sir.
Thank you. With the committee's approval, I'd like to consent items 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 5, please.
Item 5, Ms. Monique Braswell regarding Gold Cross and 911 dispatch and service.
Welcome, Ms. Braswell. For those that do not know you, would you please state your name and address, please? And you have 5 minutes.
Monique Braswell, 5117 Devon Lane. First, let me tell y'all where Devon Lane is. Devon Lane is way out there off of Jimmy Dyer's Gordon Highway, where we have no fire station, we have no ambulance, we have no bus service, we have a whole lot of no's. But what we do have is a whole lot of sick people over in that area, okay? On June the 28th, June the 27th, my baby was released from the hospital. She has a condition called pulmonary arteria, which 3 months she's already had open heart surgery, has a shunt in her heart and 2 stents at 3 months old. After being in the hospital since March the 21st, she came home on June the 27th and was back in the hospital on June the 28th. She stopped breathing on me, okay? I'm gonna say it like this. What saved my baby life was the dispatcher from Gold Cross, okay? She saved her life. She would not let me give up and not let this baby not breathe. By the 18th compression, my baby was breathing. However, that's all I have to say on that part. When I called 911, I began to scream, please help me. We gave the address. I have a baby here. My baby is not breathing. She's 3 months. She has pulmonary arteria. I have a passbook. I can pass this around and y'all can take a look at this. AU has a new program. Every place the baby goes, the book goes. The day I took it out the hospital to bring it to show y'all. When the people come in the house, I have to call an ambulance or anything. I'm supposed to just give you that paper. It's called a heart passbook. when I give you that paper, because they already assume that we are we're hysterical already. So this gives all the information that you need on the baby, her condition, you know, the meds, everything that's going on. When fire department got to my house first, they did. When they got there, in the midst of me doing what I'm doing, I lift up the window and I holler, "Hurry up, please, please, hurry up, come in. My baby's not breathing." Still was not breathing at the time. Okay? My opinion, they moseyed on in into my home while my baby wasn't breathing. Fire department got there first. I'm going to give Gold Cross about 8 to 10 minutes because I check the times on everything. Okay? At the end of the day, we have a 3-month-old baby not breathing. And the only thing that saved her life was Gold Cross dispatcher. Okay? The dispatcher. I want y'all to be very clear. I'm not endorsing Gold Cross as an ambulance company. I'm giving respect to the dispatcher that saved my baby's life. My problem with you all, Gold Cross and everybody else, just because we live out there in those big, cheap houses, big, expensive, cheaply built houses, don't mean that we don't have an issue. If I was living on Lumpkin Road, Tobacco Road, Morgan Road, I'd have had an ambulance within my house within 2 to 3, 4 minutes. But because I live out there, we get nothing. Now, I'm not going to go forward and start telling y'all about all the people who have been calling me since they knew I was on the agenda for this. I'm not going to tell you about how many times, because this is my second time coming to y'all about this situation. Y'all remember my dad with the heart attack, 28 minutes waiting on them. We need something stationized out there. I don't care if it's between the Columbia County line and Richmond County line. 16 subdivisions can't get service as quick as people that live on Lumpkin Road, Tobacco Road, Morgan Road, Peach Orchard. We're talking about our lives out there. We're talking about my life. Why were they able to save my life twice when I lived on Essex Drive in District 2? I had 2 heart attacks. They were there within 5 minutes. They saved my life. They can't save my life taking 10, 12 minutes coming out there. Y'all don't give us a fire station. Y'all don't give us nothing. And it's not fair. They want $16 million. Y'all don't want to give it to them. Y'all are all playing with our life. Y'all are all playing with our life. They got to give. Y'all got to give. We need something out there. We need something out there. And it's not fair. I say, they give y'all some more ambulances, give us something out there, standard 2 or 1 person sitting out there, and y'all get them some money. It's about negotiating. But don't negotiate with my baby like her lifespan is only 5 years of age. Okay? She's in the hospital right now waiting on a second surgery. I like Chief. Chief know what pulmonary arteria was. We had a good conversation about it. Y'all, we got to get better with this.
Dr. Moe, your time's up. I certainly feel you. I became a 3rd great-grandfather this week with a baby girl, so I know the importance of the children. Your area is the fastest growing area, I believe, in Augusta. And we've had to fight to keep it from growing even more because our infrastructure and our services has not kept up with the growth in that area. Hopefully we do have a fire station coming to your area. It's on the plans. I think it's going to get there. We certainly need to do something about ambulance service out there. That's being negotiated now. Hopefully we'll have an update on it pretty soon. I think we have a couple of questions. Commissioner Garrett?
Thank you, Chairman. I actually have a question for Chief Burton. Thanks, sir. Just one question. Am I not mistaken that we are working on a fire department being built on that Gordon Highway corridor? I know that we had a discussion about property and all that a while back. Do we have a status update on that?
Yes, sir, and you are correct. And good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and commissioners. We have cleared some hurdles, and I'm happy to report that we are reaching a stage where an RFP can be opened for that process to begin. So we are ready. I think we have a plan that will really suit the needs of that community. Specifically as it relates to its growth. So I am very excited about that and look forward to moving forward with that project.
All right, thank you, Chief. I wanted to clarify. I was trying to ask my colleagues up here, and we were all like, I think so, but I didn't know where we stood on that. So it's good to see that that's moving forward and hopefully to come to fruition very soon.
Commissioner McKnight?
That would be fire station number 3. Can we get it built yesterday?
Yes, ma'am. I've shared with Ms. Braswell as well as some other community leaders in that area that it's my hope to break ground this year.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Braswell.
Thank you, Dr. Moe. Motion to receive as information, please. We have a motion and a second.
So moved. And I think we already have a second. Or she walked away.
Vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. With no further business before public safety, this committee is adjourned.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rouse, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. The administrative services is called to order. Are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, sir. We have one deletion. The item 1, Mrs. Bryan will not be able to attend the meeting today.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. With that in mind, to my committee members as well as to my colleagues who may have some of these things that from the created a consent agenda, we're going to be deleting item number 1. We're going to be consenting item number 2, item number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, and number 12.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Number 3, we've already approved. It's just a funding, and the funding's in the book. Can we add that as well?
I think they, if I'm not mistaken, they need to recommend the funding source.
It's in the book.
It's in the book now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what do you have there? Let me look at it, because when I look, I didn't see
But
it.
I make a motion to approve what you stated, just trying to get number 3.
And the effort to-
2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Oh, these accounts number, that's where you're getting it from?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right.
Motion to approve.
Voting.
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Item number 4, Ms. Morosky.
Item 4 is to discuss properties owned by the city that have been sitting empty and aren't being utilized.
Commissioner McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I bring this forth again. I brought this to the table, I think, maybe a year ago. But the properties that I am referring to are the boathouse that's been talked about, fire station, 2163 Central Avenue, known as the Old Engine Company Number 7. That was placed in the commission's hands, I believe, in 2015. It is now 2022, and it's a beautiful structure. I thought it was going to be a museum, or we had discussed that a while back, but it hasn't happened. And you know, recently I rode by there and they replaced the glass. There were boards on there. But where I'm going with this is, are we going to continue allowing these facilities to stay empty, dilapidating, and pay more? But as time goes on, they're going to get worse. So we'll end up having to pay more. Or are we going to maybe look at selling them? There are people that want to purchase these facilities, and it's been brought to my attention, not just mine, but I think one or two other commissioners have had a discussion as well about one or two of these properties. So my question is, what are we going to do? Are we going to wait another year and continue to let these stay empty, or are we going to put them out put them up for sale? There are people that would like to purchase and renovate. I'd like some feedback if that'd be okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'll speak on the boathouse in particular. Just a couple of weeks ago, from the federal monies that we had in hand, I made mention of getting about $800,000 to do that, and some of my colleagues pushed back on that, rightfully so, and I do understand that, because we have recaptured SPLOST money that we could take and do some things. So I'll put it on the next agenda for the boathouse. I don't think the boathouse is one of our biggest venues that we have on the river. I don't think the city should be in the business of giving up prime real estate that we could, for less than $1 million, that we can bring it up to snuff and make it a viable option. It was very heavily used before before COVID, and so I'll be putting on the agenda again in the next committee cycle to try to see, can we look at some recapture SPLOST money to get that $800,000 for that particular venue itself, the boathouse. It is something that we ought to keep in this government. That's on that one. So the other one, I think just recently, I think the fire chief spoke to that about he would like to keep that. Chief, would you like to make a comment around that?
Sure. Good afternoon, commissioners. Once again, Old Fire Station 7 is very interested in that the historical significance of that building, and I'm told that it is one of the first in the United States to house motorized fire engines, which is very interesting. As you know, prior to my arrival, that facility was and still is a part of our critical infrastructure as it relates to logistics. And so I'm happy to work, if it's the will and pleasure of the commission, very happy to work with you to find a solution for that facility.
Yeah, and let me say for some of my colleagues, some of that logistics has been historically since we've been here. Mr. Mayor, you probably can help me with this. You still here, right? Yes. We've had a couple of times that we had to help our neighbors out of Savannah, Georgia, come here. And in doing that, that particular fire station was critical in having resources, the public bring resources there to be able to house resources there and to be able to give them the service that they need in a very timely manner. And so it was good to have a location, a site that we didn't have to look for a site to do that. So it was a great benefit of keeping that in the government's hands at this point. If y'all want the fire chief to look at for something else, but as of right now, he's of the mindset to keep it, and I think we should as well. Are there any other comments around that?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You are correct. We use that as a staging location when we received the evacuees from Chatham County. There were substantial donations from Kimberly-Clark and a host of other private sector partners, and that was used as a staging facility. I think, again, even as we're having this broad conversation about city resources, another good word would be assets that we have. There's certainly a thoughtful way for us to engage in that conversation and not, look at the onesies and twosies, but really having a broader perspective of how we use those resources going forward. So I share your concern, and I think the boathouse, we've talked very loosely about it. It is an asset that has long been underutilized. There's been this conversation about making an investment in it to, quote, bring it up to speed. And I think I've been adamant about it. It needs to be torn down. It needs to be torn down and a signature facility built. So appropriating $800,000 to, quote, renovate it, I do not believe is the highest and best use of the city's assets at this time. If we're going to have a thoughtful discussion about the boathouse, it needs to be, how do we take that property? How do we connect what is now viewed as the Riverwalk, and we go all the way down the levee? In the metro Atlanta area, there's this thing called the Silver Comet Trail, where they go, they bike, they do all of these things. And the reality of it is there's an ongoing discussion with our partners in South Carolina to SCDOT, GDOT, about how we could tie the Greenway in from I-20 all the way around. Included in that conversation is a broader discussion about how do we expand Riverwalk, i.e. and the levee, that would allow us all the way to the airport, to Fort Gordon, and coming back around, have something that not only rivals the Silver Comet Trail, but quite frankly supersedes that. Those are the conversations that we really need to be having.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You good with that?
I'm going to just say one more thing, and then we'll...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Let me follow
that.
up on that. Mr. Mayor, just for the record, and I know it may not change your dynamics on it, because I do think you've said that before, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. But $800,000 is just with the monies that they have in hand. I think you may be very, very aware of that. But also, I'd like to see, Madam Deputy Administrator, for this commission, and this could be a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of weeks to find this out. Is it possible that you all can bring us back all of the city-owned properties on the Riverwalk? All of the city-owned properties on the Riverwalk, because a lot of it we know are properties down there that the city doesn't necessarily own. They're private owners. But all of the city's-owned properties along that Riverwalk, when you please bring that in a timely manner to the commission.
Do you mean the whole river?
Yeah, from when I said from the levee, I'm sorry, the levee. I appreciate that, on the levee. Ms. McKnight, go ahead.
Yeah, in conclusion to hearing you both speak, you and Mr. Mayor, hopefully next year we'll have moved forward with the fire station, and like Chief Burden said, Chief Burden, I agree with you on one thing. I'd like to see a museum done, but we talked about this last year, and I feel like, we're walking, but we're not. We're talking, but we're not walking. So hopefully we can move along and get the facility open and going. We talked about last year, still sitting there empty this year. Same with the boathouse. So I look forward to seeing something done by this time next year. Thank you.
Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I agree and I disagree with the boathouse. I brought the boathouse to y'all because it was sitting there decaying. It was not making the city any money. It was going to cost us over $1 million to even get it back up to speed. So I brought a restaurateur who is very successful, not only in Augusta, but in other cities, that he was interested in the boathouse. He knew of the problems, structural problems. He knew of the money that it was going to cost to repair the boathouse. And he was willing to take all of that on. We even put it on the list of properties that we were thinking about liquidating. And then it was pulled off, because it was a diamond in the rough, so to speak. Well, that diamond hadn't been polished yet. We could have done something with the boathouse, and it would have saved the taxpayers from doing that we could have moved that money somewhere else. We could have added an attraction on the river, and it would have been back on the tax digest. The rowing club would also have had a home for as long as they wanted. So I've been, I can understand why the mayor says tear it down. It's going to become a city money pit if we don't liquidate it. And that's what I get upset about is, we'll talk something to death and never do anything with it, and then we'll come back around and talk it to death again. So we need to make up our mind one way or the other what we're going to do with it. Thank you.
Mr. Commissioner Clark, one thing you have to be mindful of, I don't know who was privileged to that conversation. As I said last time, I wasn't privileged to that conversation about a private investor was interested in it. I heard it said, but I haven't seen that. I do know there's two ways, could be many ways to get rid of divest ourselves in properties. Number one, the city can take the lead and put it out there and let people bid on it, or we can turn it to the land bank and let them do the same thing or choose a bidder based on a process. But we don't have the luxury because somebody walk up and give them city property. Don't care what their bank account look like. There's a process that has to be gone through, and that the committee decides, the commission decides to do that.
And that process was started. The conversation was brought up.
That conversation went with this commission now. I don't know where it was at, but it wasn't with this commission now.
Well, we'll have a private conversation on it then.
Yeah, it wasn't with this commission now. That's a private conversation y'all done had somewhere. It wasn't with this commission. Commissioner Garrett.
Thank you, Chairman. This is in regards to the boathouse conversation as well, and I don't disagree with the mayor in regards to tearing it down and starting over with something that would be a little more useful, especially when it comes to access. But as we're looking at that process, or whatever process we're going to use this funding towards, I would like my colleagues to kind of step back and take a look at that riverfront property. If a restaurant wanted to come there are ways to do it where the city can maintain the property, keep the property, and have a public-private partnership. You look in Savannah and other cities that have big riverfronts, there are these types of projects that are there where restaurants or other businesses are on city property and they just lease the property. I think this could be a way that we utilize the riverfront, utilize the property, and we keep the property under the city's realms, as most of my colleagues have said they would like to do. So as we're looking through this and as we're trying to make decisions, as we're trying to walk forward instead of just talk about it, I think we really need to just kind of take a big approach to it. What's the best use of that particular area? But as the chairman said about getting an update on all the property that we own along the river, I think that is an excellent place to start. I know that we have the boathouse and a couple other smaller places. There's big warehouses that we own. So I think that taking a look at what all we have and what really could be done is where we need to start. Thanks.
Anyone else have any comments you'd like to make? Thank you, sir, Mr. Commissioner Garrett. I don't necessarily disagree with you. The only part about us, for the most part, this government, and not necessarily my colleagues who are here now, but from a historical perspective, we have not done well as a government to having public and private partnerships. It seemed historically the city put in all the money and the partners put in very little. And that's the concern of mine. So if we're going to do a public-private partnership correctly, let's do it correctly. It might be worth looking into. Thank you very much. Commissioner Frampton, I'm sorry.
Motion to receive as information.
Voting.
That motion carries unanimously.
Who is number 5, Mr.? We need to know.
Dun, 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 dun.
Administrative services is adjourned.
Oh, yeah.
We had one more, Mr.
Number
I'm
5.
sorry, we got item number 5. As item number 5, Commissioner Franklin.
I'll wait
Go
for
ahead,
you.
Ms.
You want to read it
Morowski.
for the record?
Discuss moving the meeting times to the following: executive session 2 p.m., committees 4 p.m., commission meeting 5 p.m.
Commissioner Franklin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So people probably wonder why now, why would I want to put this on there? I think that we got to talk about the history of this. This started where the commission many years ago changed the times of the commission for one commissioner based on a scheduling change that he had with his job. And I respect that. But I think over the last 3 to 5 years, you've seen how important local politics is. You've seen how people need to be more engaged and have the opportunity, frankly, to be engaged. And whether it's one more person that has the opportunity, they have an opportunity. As well as, I'll say, now that I have 2.5 years left, there'll be more opportunity for people to run for office. People that have full-time jobs, they can't even consider an opportunity here. So I think that would be important. But mainly this is about the people. I think we've got a lot of business leaders in this community that have asked, they've come to this community and wonder, why do we meet at 2 p.m. for commission meetings? Frankly, when you look at other municipalities, they meet at 5 or 6, though committees are at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I understand that in some of the bigger municipalities that are of like size like us. But I think this gives the people an opportunity to be more engaged. I think it allows us, from a standpoint, to engage the younger generation, that, you know, they can actually attend a commission meeting or be engaged in a way that, from a philanthropic standpoint, if there's a nonprofit and things like that, we never get to see the kids' organizations that we support and give money to. We never see them here because they're in school. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to change this. I've heard the feedback of, oh, it's going to cost us money. It's not going to cost us any money. The department heads are here. They're salaried. They're here till 7 o'clock most nights anyway. And I feel confident that as even the new colleagues and new mayors and things that, you know, we got to do our job on the front end and be prepared as well to come in here and do the people's business in a way that we're prepared. Also, there's many events that happen on committee days, chamber luncheons that we don't get to attend, or even ribbon cuttings. We had one 3 weeks ago that we didn't even get to attend because we're in executive session at 11 a.m. And lastly, I think this would be the best for our image. I think when you look at when we have our meetings and we're the lead-in story of things that happen up here, when you have a 5 o'clock commission meeting, that's not going to be the case. And I think that's very important because all people see is what happens on the 5 or 6 o'clock news, and that's not what we do. We all know that we agree 98% of the time up here, but they're going to take the snippet of us arguing or us, you know, heated debate that's just not a reflection of this city. So I think it's important for us to do that. So I make a motion that we forward this to the full commission with no recommendation, and we vote next week on moving these meeting times as discussed on the screen.
Ms. McKnight?
If I'm not mistaken, years ago they tried this where they had meetings in the evenings and not many people showed up. A former commissioner and I talked about it, and I heard that many people didn't show up. So we'll just have to see what happens next week if we put it on the agenda. But I feel like this is my full-time job, is to work for the people of Augusta, Georgia, and the time you know, personally, it suits me and it suits a lot of other people that do get to come out. So anyway, I'm just putting my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Well, let me weigh in on anybody else. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've witnessed, because I've been coming here before 2014 when I actually ran for office, since 2005, 2006, and I've witnessed one of the changes for one of the commissioners, and it done very little. And of course, my colleague, in fairness to him, he did make some other variables. He didn't just let that be the only reason why. But however, my last 6 months, I'm comfortable in terms of what they're doing now, because at that time of the day, I'm winding down. You know, and I know that's probably y'all have to say, yeah, we really need to change it now. Well, I understand that. I understand that. But I'm comfortable where we are in terms of what we're doing. We get in here, we get out, we get a lot of stuff done. We're not going to be able to ever control what the media does. If they don't do it it's 11 o'clock at night, they're definitely going to run it at noon tomorrow, 4 o'clock the next day, 5 o'clock the next day, and back 6 o'clock the next day. They're going to loop it for 24 hours now, as opposed to that, because they're going to be mad because they missed the 5 o'clock news. And so I'm comfortable with this, Ms. Commissioner Frampton, myself. That's me personally. And so, Commissioner Johnson, you want to make a comment?
No comment other than the fact that they all shook their head yes when you were just talking.
They don't know me,
especially
man.
George Escala.
And so I just make a motion. Can I get a motion to receive this information? Can I get a primary? Okay, I can't make the motion. Can I get a motion in a second to receive it? If I got a second, I need a primary.
I'll second it, but Ms. Moralski, if you can put on full commission a meeting next week,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
Voting.
That motion carries 3-1 with Ms. Scott voting no.
That's the end of the Finance
Engineering
Committee.
is ready to start when you are, Ms.
Yes, sir.
All right. I hear my Mayor Pro Tem down here chatting, but this is one of those times where I actually agree with him. If the committee has no objections, I would like to consent items 1 through 5.
So moved.
Sir? 1 through 5.
So moved.
All right. Voting, please. Who are we waiting on?
Mr. Hassan.
Commissioner Hassan,
Mr. Hassan.
need you to press your button.
Thank you, sir. I thought I had to wait till 5 o'clock.
That motion carries unanimously.
And if there's no further business, we call engineering to a close.
I'd like to call Finance Committee to order. Are there any additions or deletions?
No, sir.
Being none, if my colleagues would agree, I'd like to consent item number 1.
Motion to approve.
The motion to approve, please cast your vote.
We're going to have to start adding more on finance. Wouldn't do something. Right.
That motion carries 3-0. Mr. Mason out.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes,
Being
sir.
no additional business, that concludes finance. Everybody have a good evening.
The mayor has signed that.
Okay.
If you can open it for me.
I can get a hold of it. Yep.